country right now. How relevant is our conversation today? Langata High School on fire as we speak. Riga Girls High School, the fire has just been put out. 2 dormitories, 1 dining hall and a science lab have been affected. This is a conversation that the country needs to have, and that is why Checkpoint is live once again from the University of Nairobi. Welcome to the program tonight. You've seen our top stories. We'll be having a discussion later on. Let me just show you who's on our panel here at the University of Nairobi. We have Elijah Dede, who is a parent at Okota High School in Homa Bay County. He's also the chair of the Board of Management. We'll be speaking about that as well. We have Dr. Wawire Koinange, who's an educational psychologist from the Kenyatta University. Right next to him, we have Omboko Milemba, who's the chair of KUPPET, that's Kenya's Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. And next to me, Raphael Ndegwa, who's a former student who will be talking about this. Also live with us here, we have students from the University of Nairobi and also members of the faculty. We thank them for their hospitality tonight. That is all coming up. Please use the hashtag Checkpoint at KTN News and at Yvonne Okwara. We'll be getting to your feedback in just a moment. But let's start off with our top stories of the day. And as we told you, Kenya's education sector is in a crisis. Fire incidents and other forms of unrest have been reported in 91 schools, and at least 99 students and 5 teachers have so far been arrested in the last 3 months alone. Now, the Standard newspaper authoritatively exposed the link between exam fraud and fires amid other triggers of the unrest. Tonight, we evaluate the unrest from the past and voices of different stakeholders.
Flames have ravaged our schools, and when the smoke dies out, the impact is devastating for the students who want to desperately get an education and the parents at the fringes of society who have invested heavily. Property worth more than 200 million shillings destroyed. Kisii and Nyamira have been the hardest hit counties. According to the Inspector General of Police in the Standards report Saturday, 91 schools had been affected in at least 20 counties, 3,000 students out of school. In Itiero Boys High School alone in Kisii South, the banning of 7 dormitories would get the nation's attention in a way that the first documented fire incident case at Kamandura Girls High School Kiambu had not in March 2016.
Sisi tunaogopa, hata tunashindwa tuweke watoto nje wasomee hii mashule ya nje, tufanye nini?
Unrest in our schools has stalked the country since Jomo Kenyatta's administration in the 1970s, the tragedy of St. Kizito in 1991, the Bombolulu Girls fire of 1998 that left 25 girls dead, 4 prefects burned to death in Nyeri High in 1999, and the peak of tragedy in the Kianguli Secondary School where 68 boys were burned to death.
We've had over 350 cases of arson in the last 10 years. Some of them serious. We don't have even 20 successful prosecutions. Even 20, which means the threshold of accountability is very low. That's why we have these cases repeating over and over again.
The trends help to peel back the layers of the real issue. 99% of affected schools are public, sub-county and extra-county. Only 2 national schools so far have been affected. A government report released in 2016 attributes the unrest to community and other interested party struggles, with disharmony between principals, the deputies and teachers, claims that principals failed to facilitate access to leaked KCC examination papers.
Watu kazoni kuingiza siasa kwa elimu, wanaingiza siasa kwa kila kitu. Hii nchi itaishi kuungua.
Changamoto kubwa ni upande wa utawala, kwa sababu kuna zile serikali za wanafunzi na pia kuna ile bodi.
Counseling psychologist David Gitao
the reaction of this person to a situation that probably frustrates them or angers them, learning by observation. So we need to be careful about what we do, even as a nation.
2001, the government formed a task force to investigate the incidents under the leadership of the then Director of Education, Naomi Wangai. Together with the 10th Parliament, they gave recommendations. Law, any person who willfully and unlawfully sets fire to any building or structure is liable to life imprisonment, and whoever attempts arson liable to imprisonment for 14 years. But where do we draw the distinction between crime and indiscipline? Rehabilitation officers argue that the arrest, summoning and arraigning of juveniles in court is counterproductive. Juvenile justice must be based on helping the problem of the child.
In collaboration with my colleagues across government, is to ensure that we bring about a sense of sanity, and that will come through people being accountable.
Most important thing is to actually give these children an opportunity to go through a process of counseling. Punishing an individual, yes, may achieve a certain objective in terms of feeling like we dealt with the problem, but that does not stop, repeat by someone else.
If art imitates life, the depiction of true events in Soweto, South Africa in the 1992 film Sarafina showed the lengths which school students went in protest. The sins of unrest in our schools, scripted or sporadic, are real and cannot be dismissed regardless of the scale and scope. Dorcas Wangera, KTN News.
Well, a commission of inquiry is currently investigating the cases of school fires now. But why are the students taking matters to the extreme? We get the reason from one student of Itierio Boys Secondary School as Speaker of the Senate Ekwe Thuro calls for the reintroduction of caning in schools.
When boys of Itierio Secondary School in Kisii County burnt down 7 of their 13 dormitories, they destroyed some of what was initiated in the 1950s when the school was established. Initial indications were that the students were angry after being denied access to watch a Eurocup championship match. Now it is emerging that it may have been more than just about a game.
The rules were changed as our principal went away. The rules were changed.
The school's principal, Andrew Otara, was attending a head teachers conference in Mombasa when the students took matters into their own hands, protesting new measures, among them the scrapping of a 1-hour evening break.
The other rule that was changed is it was that we should eat with the school spoons and plates. We didn't like that. Lunch, the dishes are not cleanly washed. The oil, you eat the food doubtfully.
For that, the students have lost a month of class time and parents will have to pay for the damages. The school's principal, the boarding master, head of exams, and the Kisii County Education Officer have since been interdicted. With a commission of inquiry trying to establish the root cause of the recent unrest in schools, Speaker of the Senate, Ekwe Thuro, is calling for what some may term as radical measures to curb indiscipline in schools.
Mimi nitaomba na mimi najua mimi nilikuwa mtu wa human rights pia, lakini imefika wakati nafikiri turudishe kiboko shuleni.
Caning was banned in the year 2001. At least 70 schools have been involved in arson cases in recent weeks. And Deputy President William Ruto is urging a collective effort to curb schools unrest.
It is our collective responsibility as citizens of this country, as parents, as teachers, and as government officials to make sure that we engage our young people in our schools so that they are not derailed into doing things that jeopardize their education, destroy property, and cause unnecessary loss.
The Commission of Inquiry looking into the arson cases has less than a month to make known its findings. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
So we'll get back to that discussion in just a short while right here on Checkpoint. Remember to keep your comments coming in. The hashtag is Checkpoint. My panel is all ready and so are the students here at the University of Nairobi. So let's go to our other stories today. And today marks exactly 1 year since the historic visit to Kenya by U.S. President Barack Obama, who arrived in the country on the eve of last year's Global Entrepreneurship Summit. Tonight, KTN News' Murimi Mwangi interrogates what Kenya has to show for the historic visit and the GES Summit in Nairobi 1 year on.
The maiden touchdown of Air Force One in Kenya on the 24th of July 2015 could have easily stolen the show from the over 5,000 foreign delegates in Nairobi for the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, the first time it was being held in sub-Saharan Africa. But exactly 1 year later, does Kenya have anything to show for the historic conference?
Kenya should be able to celebrate the growth of small and medium enterprises in the country. Since the GES, it has gone up considerably.
I think we have seen slightly more American investors coming into the country than before in the area of clean energy.
Our country has achieved very coveted status internationally. Now, internationally, everyone understands that if Kenya is leading in the prosecution of a certain item, it shall be delivered.
US President Barack Obama's attendance of the summit was widely viewed in the diplomatic world as the great inducement for increased Western investment in Kenya.
We really need to push for policies to pursue FDI as opposed to portfolio investment.
The Ministry of Industrialization has taken some initiatives to talk to SMEs, small and micro enterprises, to be able to prepare them to be able to trade with the US.
But despite the delegates at the summit reaching a consensus to facilitate the full implementation of the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA, a U.S. legislation that grants 39 sub-Saharan African countries duty-free access for over 6,000 African products, Kenyan businessmen are yet to enjoy the goodie due to existing bottlenecks that are yet to be fully eliminated.
We have not been export ready as a country. We need to have our mama mboga down there be able to know, how do I export finally to the American market my vegetables?
Plans to open direct flights between Kenya and the United States, which were discussed extensively by the Kenyan and US delegations during the Obama visit, have also remained elusive. But US Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs Linda Thomas Greenfield assured Kenyans last week that a clearance of Kenya Airways to fly directly to the United States is almost complete and that direct flights could take off by the end of the year. Although Kenya has made a substantive headway at pursuing the generation of clean power, which was top on the agenda of the summit, analysts argue that a lot more still needs to be done to expand the scope of foreign investment in the country. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, in Nairobi.
Friendship that has been tested and survived over decades, with one friend rising to become Kenya's deputy president, the other a boda operator. That notwithstanding, the two have never forgotten their humble beginnings and what brought them together in the first place, and more importantly, what it is that has held the bond all these years.
Na mara nyingi wanapata matatizo kujua ya kwamba mimi ni naibu wa rais wa Kenya. Mara nyingi wanakuja hapa wanaambia, wewe William namna gani bwana wewe? Ana mwingine hapo anaitwa Gilimendi, tulikuwa hii Gilimendi, unajua huku mheshimiwa rais, huku mtu anaitwa Clement, huku anaitwa Gilimendi. So nilikuwa na yeye hapa.
Na labda nisimuite William, ndio ninyi muendelee kuzoea kumuita William, niseme yale ambaye makamu wa rais ameongea hapa.
And it is at Kamagut village in Uasin Gishu County where one Clement Kipkoech Kosgei is found. Clemendi alias Kajanja is a seasonal boda operator come livestock broker. He has now become an overnight celebrity in the village.
Nikawa makini sasa. Yani sasa nikaona hii jamaa ametaja jina yangu sasa. kuna wanakijiji wengine walikuwa wananifanya sijia maneno huko, ni kama wananijuna hivi ati umetajwa huko. Sasa kwanza nikafikiria pengine anaweza akasema simama na watu ni wengi.
The DP's joke resulted in a lunch invite with the president and his primary school friend, the deputy president, for the comical Klimendi.
Naonanga eri nikitaka kupata eri hata nikae karibu na goridi nifanye hivi uso basi anione tu atafanya kuja. Sasa sioni, yani wakati tuko na yeye uanga na sahau hiyo maneno hii ya kusema excellency, yani mheshimiwa, uanga na sahau hiyo maneno sana.
And he recounts bits of their conversation during the lunch.
Excellency president mwenyewe alinipatia advice, na advice mzuri, tuliongea mwisho mzuri, akaniambia nichikasi kwa kasi ili niweze kusomesha watoto.
Mendy's neighbor David Mayo described him as a comical man who easily navigates through serious business with jokes.
Ikia mahali watu wengi hawezi fika, kukutana na president na kuongea sio rahisi.
Hali ilikuwa namna gani?
Kwanza ile hiyo mesa vile nilifika hapo, hata nilikuwa naona maajabu. Kwa sababu sikuwa natarajia nitafika kiwango hiyo.
Mzuri kabisa. Kama mimi naona yeye amekuwa juu, naenda juu. Raruto.
Elvis Kosgei, KTN News, Kamagut Village, Uasin Gishu County.
Philadelphia City is described as the cradle of democracy in the United States. It's where the U.S. independence was declared in 1776. It is also where the country's constitution was written. And tonight, our special correspondent Alex Chamwada is in Philadelphia, from where he will cover the forthcoming Democratic Convention this week.
It is all systems go in Philadelphia as the city of about 1.5 million people hosts the Democratic National Convention. It is the largest city of Pennsylvania state and the fifth most populous in the United States. This is the city where the Democrats chose to hold their convention ahead of the November 8th presidential election. The convention will take place at the Wells Fargo Center, a multi-purpose indoor arena. Security is tight on the ground and above. Buses are on standby to ferry delegates to and from the venue. The climax of the convention will be the nomination of Hillary Clinton as the party's candidate and Tim Kaine as the running mate. Hillary picked the Virginia senator as her running mate on Friday. The party will also unveil its campaign platform. Then Hillary will deliver her vision for America.
According to the news, we are on the brink of a historic, unprecedented moment. But we still have work to do, don't we?
The Republicans held their convention last week. Donald Trump chose Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his running mate. Trump has a radical campaign platform as he urges Americans, quote, to reclaim their country.
It's on Pennsylvania Avenue. That was very important to me, because if I don't win the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue, then I'm just going to stay at my hotel, and it's practically, I want to be on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Now, apart from the Democratic National Convention, where Hillary Clinton will be endorsed as the presidential candidate and Tim Kaine as the running mate, there will be other activities across the city. There is what they call the political festival, full of fun, entertainment, and exhibitions. there will also be a leaders forum organized by the National Democratic Institute, a non-profit, non-partisan organization that enhances democracy across the world. Issues like how to manage a campaign, how to deal with the media, and the impact of new media like social media will be discussed. And it is at that forum where you will find the Kenyan leaders who have come to participate in this event. For KTN News, I'm Alex Chamwada in Philadelphia.
Deported from Kenya yesterday, and only one day later, the Agricultural and Commercial Society of Zambia has cancelled Congolese musician Koffi Olomide's show there. A statement says the decision was based on Olomide's misconduct at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi. Olomide has twice been reported to have engaged in violence in the Zambian capital, Lusaka. He reportedly beat up one of his dancers and then a photojournalist at the Taj Pamodzi Hotel. While his reception back home was far from rosy upon his return from Nairobi, he was booed by bystanders at the airport. And it seems that the action by Kenya is causing a spiral effect for Koffi Olomide. Okay, so we will have my thoughts on that, on my take, my editorial, every day at the end of the show. You don't want to miss that. So please do stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we're taking a short break right now on Checkpoint. We are live from the University of Nairobi, hosted by the University of Nairobi's School of Journalism. We have students from here and members of faculty, and we're so glad for their hospitality tonight. We are here because this is where a number of those students might end up from high school, and with the crisis that is going on in schools at the moment, this would be the best place to have that discussion. My discussion with the panel is coming up next. The hashtag is Checkpoint. What are the solutions that we need to be looking forward to? Who is to blame? What do we need to do? Sosion from the Kenya National Union of Teachers is saying the schools should be closed right now. What do you think? Join in the conversation. We will be right back. Checkpoint live from the University of Nairobi here on KTN News. Stay with us.
Okay, now I want to speak as a student, as maybe a Form 4 student or a Form 3 student.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the system, the curriculum, the 844 system.
Okay.
And for me, it was tiring, especially the 4 for the secondary school.
Right.
If you have watched a movie called The Three Idiots, teachers are teaching robots. They want us to be robots, and they're expressing more pressure on us. They want us to gaps all that is in the curriculum and do it well on the end term exam. And we do a lot of exam only to be tested on one paper at the end of the fourth year.
Right.
So do you think the 844 system is a major thing that is leading to the unrest? And also, do you think we are becoming robots? Because nowadays we are not learning, we are becoming robots. We don't even know what we are doing. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Interesting, because the curriculum is currently under review. So let's bear that in mind, that at least that's one solution that's being sought as we speak. Yes, let's have your views.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Edwin Newthor, and I think my concern addresses the panelist who is talking about dictatorship of principles. I am a member of 2 boards currently, and I think the rules of engagement in the boards of management in schools is very clear. The chairman of the board and the board itself is responsible for creating policy, and the principal is only a secretary to that board. The principal does not have any power, and they respond, they report to the board practically on everything, from discipline to, the academic achievements, practically on everything.
Okay.
I don't know how you could have a situation where you have a dictator of a principal, unless, of course, the chairman of that board is not doing his work.
Okay, interesting views. I would like us to seek solutions, and we also have a clip from Dr. Matiang'i, but I'd like us to finish here. We have 4 minutes, I think, so if you can just spare one each. I'll come to you, Mboko Bilemba. I'd like to start with Elijah Dede.
I think a good general, in the face of defeat, will call for a retreat to reorganize the forces. So I think it's time for CS Matiang'i to retreat.
And by retreat, you mean?
Closing the schools,
okay,
and finding a solution.
All right.
He has already put mechanisms to find out what is happening.
Yes.
So we do not need to have more cases of schools being banned within the few weeks that are remaining, as opposed to sending the students at home. Then look at the possible ways, because when the students go back, they now face their parents, isn't it? They'll start talking. When they talk, when they go back, at least they have some sense of ownership and responsibility.
Okay.
So that's what we require now.
Okay.
But it should not continue saying we'll continue going on until the school closes within the calendar.
Okay.
That one is defeatist. Let him retreat and let us reorganize the education sector. Yes.
Okay. All right. Daktari, thank you for that, Elijah.
I think what I will maybe in the meantime just propose, instead of the students going home, I think parents should be called to go to school. Mm-hmm. And each parent to sit with their son or daughter mm-hmm. and talk about what is happening. Mm-hmm. Another thing that needs to happen is to address the demoralized teacher. Uh-huh. Nowadays they are saying they are only in school to teach the history, the geography, they were sent there. I think a teacher needs, the CS needs to speak in a way that the teacher feels understood, in a way that the teacher can spend more time with the students. Another thing that needs to be helped in the school, I think students are pressured so much. Mm-hmm. These students need a rest. I think the issue of holiday tuition has just to be banned properly and completely. Students beginning classes at 6, students doing cuts at night. I think some of these things need to be checked because a tired mind is an explosive mind. Okay. So we need to see what is it this child is going through, mm-hmm. reduce the pressure on the student, mm-hmm. and after this, I think we shall also have reduced the pressure that we are experiencing now. Another thing, and for me, which I think in the long term, school principals should be given term limits.
Okay.
And the appointment of school principals should be competitive.
All right. Okay. All right. Mboko Bilemba, a minute?
He really has a problem with principals, but we shall sort it out with him later. But I think the curriculum review should be done so that we reduce on the content mm-hmm. so that the students are not very much pressurized. Okay. And then we should look at, and as we look at the curriculum, we should also look at the level of growth of students. I think the student whom we are having in school as a student up to 18 is more grown than what we imagined of 18. Doctor, you should listen to this, at 18, because of technology, experiences, this person is more mature mm-hmm. than we thought, and therefore the punishments in terms of what I talked about, the juvenile, the Boston institutions and so on, must be put at a good level. But for now, FDR, that's one of the presidents of America who ruled for more terms. Mm-hmm. He said good leadership is about continuous and persistent experimentation. You try something, if you fail, you admit publicly, but keep on trying. Matiang'i tried the rules, they have failed, let him withdraw, like the parents said. Yeah, let's close the schools, have a lull, then see how to go back in a more good way. Otherwise, we shall ban all the schools as we defend the policies or no policies.
Okay, all right, thanks for that. Rafa?
Right. So I think one of the things that one of the common denominators that you can hear from the speakers is that the student is under pressure.
Okay.
So I think can we stop making the school a conveyor belt, whereby you're finding a student is placed in one grade and then just passed on to the next, without any look. You're not looking at what is happening with them. You just, as long as they go to the next level. Mm-hmm. That's one. Two, can we open up channels of communication? Because right now we're seeing parents are busy, of course, because school is expensive. So parents are busy trying to provide the school fees. So they're not really talking to their children. And when the child wants to talk to the senior figures at the school, they're not being listened to. So you're finding a situation where he's being bounced around, he's being bounced to go here, go there. Now, in that situation, he feels left out.
Okay.
So this is where you're seeing the rage is happening.
All right.
Also, the curriculum, is it really relevant right now? Because we're churning out graduates, hundreds of thousands of graduates each year, and then we end up in the streets talking about we don't have jobs because we're focusing on creating an environment where you have to be employed. You're not really focusing on creating those industries.
I see. Okay, so curriculum review, which is under review at the moment. I'd like us, yes, please. I'd like us to hear from the cabinet secretaries. Pay the teachers well. There's a comparative study that talks about that, and we'll get. That's a conversation for another day. That talks about how teachers in Kenya may actually be the better paid in the region. Let's hear from the cabinet secretary what his solutions are for this crisis.
We insisted that boards of management must now have meetings in schools with the head teachers and the students. And I am aware from our county directors who have filed reports that actually many BOMs have gone to school, sat down with the students and found out what the issues are, ventilated any challenges between them and the administration and so on. There are other detailed security matters which I don't want to discuss, in an interview of this kind, which we are also following up. For example, building a relationship between this and examination cheating in the country. There are certain critical leads that we are following. Those will come, later, but accountability will have to, be ensured.
All right, so that's the cabinet secretary talking about the solutions. We also asked you at home, our viewers, what you think on social media. What do you think would bring an end to the current school unrest in Kenya? 32% of you said caning of students. 20% said closing schools. 37% of you said charging perpetrators. 11% of you don't know what the possible solutions could be. I will get into a little bit more of your feedback right here on Checkpoint. I thank my panel for having this conversation, and I thank so much the students here of Nairobi University, the School of Journalism, for hosting us here, the members of faculty as well. We will be concluding our show in just a moment, but we still have more to come right here on Checkpoint. Remember, we're asking you about your voter experience. Today, IEBC is responding to your needs right here on Checkpoint. We're coming with that after the break right here on Checkpoint on KTN News, where you get the whole story live from the University of Nairobi. Stay with us. 0672727272. That is our feedback number. If you can, please take pictures. We'd love to see what that process was like. And we said, any questions, comments, queries, complaints, issues, IEBC is working with us here on Checkpoint to respond to those queries. So let's get into a little bit of your feedback now. We have this one. The number begins 0720. And you say, I'm a registered voter in Changamwe, Mombasa. I want to change to Kisumu West. Which way to go? Well, IEBC has responded to you and says, kindly go with your original ID card to the Kisumu West IEBC office, which is in Maseno town, behind the Maseno Law Courts. We have another one here. You didn't leave your name. It would be nice if you leave your name and your location, please. From a number that begins 0729. You say, I lost my voter's card. Am I supposed to register again? To you, IEBC says, that should not worry you. That is not a voter's card, but an acknowledgement slip, which you will not need on polling day. All you need is the identification document you use to register as a voter. That is either your national ID card or a valid Kenyan passport. I also have another one here from Raz Amani. On Twitter, says, please ask IEBC what happened to diaspora voter registration. You say, IEBC says voter registration for Kenyan citizens residing outside Kenya will be undertaken during the second phase of mass voter registration to be rolled out towards the end of the year and early next year. There's, I'm sure, a number of others that are running on our screens right now, so you can take a look at that. We will also be sending you individual responses from IEBC. We'll be using that same number, 0706 727272. Voting is your constitutional duty. It is your right to decide who are the leaders that will vote for you. We'd like to remind you here on Checkpoint every single Sunday night that the politicians are getting themselves ready. You can see a lot of the movements. IEBC is getting itself ready. Are you getting yourself ready to decide who will lead you? Because at the end of the day, they say bad leadership is due to people that do not vote. Are you going to be one of those persons, or will you participate in this exercise? So please go out and get yourself at your constituency level. Remember, this process goes on until May 2017. And definitely IBC is working with us here on Checkpoint to respond to your queries. So keep them coming into that number. You can also send us your tweets at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara, and on our Facebook platforms as well. And we'll answer all your questions individually. Lest we forget, the voter registration exercise is continuous. Lest we forget, it is our constitutional right to participate in this very important exercise in our democratic process in the country. You're watching Checkpoint. The sports news is up next, so stay with us.
When building. After 2 postponements, FC Leopards delegates finally went to the polls to elect officials that will steer Ingwe for the next 3 years. With more than 5,000 delegates registered to cast their votes, the need to finish the exercise early was evident as some of the delegates go to the polling station as early as 7 a.m. With the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission closing the polling stations at 1 o'clock, it was time for the numbers to do the talking. Then came the time everybody at the den was waiting for.
The winner is Mulay Anthony Daniel with 1,160 votes.
With 1,160 votes, Dan Mule was declared the AFC Leopards chairman, beating his closest rival Maurice Amawa by 338 votes.
I want to thank all the branches. I want to thank all the delegates. I want to thank all the AFC Leopards fans. Football has won today. I want to say AFC Leopards have won. It's not Daniel who has won. It's the club which has won.
Those who were not on the winning side had some words of advice to the incoming team.
So I believe whoever takes the club now will take it to another level. And this is my appeal.
Timothy Muteshi was elected Organizing Secretary General, while Stazo Angila will serve as his assistant. Oscar Mafunga takes the secretary seat, while Oliver Mbezi serves as the treasurer. Dan Mule now, as the chairman of the AFC Football Club, his mandate for the next 3 years will include ensuring that AFC gets back to its glory days. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
News now. A couple of birdies, 7 pars and a single bogey is all that Wycliffe Nyambogo needed to clinch the overall prize during the Standard County Golf Classic tournament. It was played at the Par 70 Nyanza Golf Club over the weekend. Nyambogo, playing off handicap 17, carded 19 Stableford points on the outward nines. He summed it up with 22 Stableford points on the outward nines, and he now has a total of 41 Stableford points. Handicap 26, Dilu Patel, was the men's winner after posting 20 Stableford points on the outward nines. He had 18 points on the inward nines for a total score of 38 Stableford points. The men's third prize went to Ramesh Karia, playing off handicap 18. This is after posting 19 Stableford points on the outward nine and 17 Stableford points on the inward nines. He had a total of 36 Stableford points. so I want to take a look at some of your feedback on social media. We've had quite a vibrant session here at the University of Nairobi. On Twitter, at Makodingo says, as we look for long-term solutions, jail a few of those who've burnt schools. Students should know they can't get away with it. At Nahashan87 says, we should cultivate a culture where students reason together and then come up with decisions like electing a representative. Dr. Ahmed Kalebi says, we should listen to the wise words of Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And then here's one saying, our students at Atanasi _ you say, our students not respecting their teachers. George Githinji finally says, your Twitter handle is at PoliticsKE. If you want to know why students are burning schools, then talk directly to them, not necessarily the analysts alone. We had a former student, and also earlier in our bulletin, we spoke to one of those students, albeit anonymously. But yes, the students' voices need to be heard in this one. That is your feedback on our discussion today. We hope to see more, a number of schools that are on fire, and have experienced that this evening alone. Quite a number of schools. I just want to update you with the latest. Property at Kijabe High, Langata High, Ndanai Girls, Liani Secondary and Riga Girls razed down in latest cases of arson by students. That is the latest tonight, and sadly the toll keeps going there. I want to thank members of my panel, Elijah Dede, who's a parent, Dr. Wawire, Omboko Milemba, who's the chair of Kupet, who had to leave us, Rafael Ndegwa, who's a former student, and the students here at Nairobi University, as well as members of faculty. We thank you very much for joining us, and we also want to thank very much the faculty of the School of Journalism, particularly here at the University of Nairobi, for hosting us. We brought the discussion here because many of those students in high school, this is of course the next step for them. So of course this is an issue we need to start tackling right from the root. And we thank the University of Nairobi so much for hosting us tonight. But we're not done yet. My take, as you know, every night on Checkpoint. Now, my take tonight is about an incident that has sparked outrage in the country. Musician Koffi Olomide caught on camera kicking one of his dancers. His subsequent arrest and deportation. Now the reactions to this episode have been varied. Some have said that Koffi was merely defending his wife's honor. Yet others say that the act of violence against a woman was unacceptable. Some of us have been ambivalent, wondering what the fuss was all about. After all, is he not one of the greatest musicians of our time? But here's the thing. Violence is wrong, period. Men beating men, men beating women, women beating men, or even women beating other women. Violence is wrong. It is illegal, criminal. And one would imagine that it is the reason why the police got involved in the end. Now I say in the end because at many levels their action appeared to be a complete afterthought. The musician was arrested after 9 p.m., some 10 or so hours after the incident happened at the airport. Never mind that there were police officers right next to him as he launched the morning attack. To their credit though, the police woke up in the end, and as we speak, Koffi Olomide is back in Kinshasa, having been deported yesterday. But the conversation that followed his deportation is perhaps the clearest pointer about what is wrong with our criminal justice system. Now, in a society where the law is followed without fear or favor, that action would have passed as just another day in the life of law enforcement officers in the country. But the fact that citizens are now in fact debating whether police acted in good faith is very telling indeed. Who would blame a section of Kenyans right now for questioning the action by police when high-profile figures routinely engage in unlawful acts without any noticeable punishment being meted on them? Has impunity become so entrenched in Kenya that we now get surprised when wrongdoing is punished? Koffi Olomide broke the law. He was punished for it, and going forward, all of us can only hope that the same formula will be used to punish the hate mongers, those who steal our own money. In fact, it should also punish those who abuse our children, those who beat journalists who are on duty, and those who rig elections. And yes, even those politicians that slap others. For that is my take tonight. Thank you very much for joining us this and every night, and for your feedback, and a warm thanks to the University of Nairobi for hosting us here on Checkpoint tonight. It is our hope that a solution to this crisis in schools will be found sooner rather than later. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. Good night from the University of Nairobi here. Thank you all. Asanteni sana.